Hi guys, welcome back to A Page in the Chapter, or welcome if you are new here. My name is Paige and it is finally time to go through all of the books I read in January. January is always a very long month and it felt even longer this year. It was just awful. That being said, I had a very good reading month. So this past month I took part in the Friends Readathon and I read 10 books, so if I keep that up I'm on track to hitting my Goodreads goal for the year, but I don't think I will. But 10 books in the first month I'm very impressed with myself for, especially considering for the last half of the month I was in a major reading slump, and we'll go through which books kind of caused that later. Of these 10 books, it was a bit of a mess. I had a lot of mess. I had some DNFs, I had some 1 stars and 2 stars. I did have like a couple of 5-star like favourites, but those were all right at the beginning of the month, and towards the end, I don't know, I guess I was just picking bad books. If you guys are interested in sticking around and checking out some of my other videos, do please hit that big red subscribe button and give this video a like, because, you know, why not? It's a nice thing to do. Let's celebrate the start of February. I have wrap-ups for every single month, other than last September, because I didn't read anything last September. But other than that, I have wrap-ups for every single other month since I've been on BookTube, so you guys may as well go and check those out if you are interested. Now we can get into the books. So if you guys have seen my video of my dog reviewing my January TBR, then you will have already seen what I think of some of these books. If you haven't seen it, I will link it for you because I'm very proud of that video, and there are plenty of books that I read for this TBR that I didn't put in that video because I'm a mood reader. So we started with Heartstopper by Alice Oseman. This is a graphic novel about 2 boys named Nick and Charlie, and they meet at school. It's a romance, you know, I think everyone at this point knows it's a romance. I don't think that's a spoiler. And this is just volume 1 and it's so cute. I must say the graphic novel style did take me a moment to get used to. I did open the first page and be like, I genuinely don't know how to read this. But you pick it up super quickly, you fly through it. I read it in under an hour. I desperately need to pick up the other volumes because I just think it's so fun and light, and I just need more fun, light books in my life right now. The next book I read was a NetGalley arc that was a carryover from December, and that was called Is Odessi. This is essentially about a young girl, and this like pendant turns up on her door one day. The pendant just like lets her like communicate with this spirit and kind of thrusts her into this whole world, and she discovers a lot about the people in her life and the people around her and what the hell is going on. I gave this a 3 stars. But I don't think it was necessarily the book's fault. The blurb and the description on NetGalley really led me to believe that this was a fantasy, and it's not. It was very much a sci-fi, and I don't really read sci-fi. I have nothing against it. I've read sci-fis that I've enjoyed, but I'm just not particularly into that genre. I don't know it very well, and this was kind of a heavy one with a lot of world building. There were a lot of new words and, like, as I said, just a lot of world building, and I think this could have really benefited from a glossary being at the beginning. There was a glossary at the end of this book, but that kind of didn't really do anything to help me. It would have been nice to like familiarise myself with the terms before going into the book. This book is very much like a sci-fi gods and goddesses interacting with the world, fake mythology kind of book, and if you are interested in that, then I think this is a really good book. It got straight into the plot at the 4% mark. It's a really fast-paced book. It just personally wasn't for me because it wasn't the genre that I expected it to be. Then we have my favourite book of the year. I already know this is my favourite book of the year. I loved this so much. This gave me such like reading the Mortal Instruments when I was 13 years old vibes. This like massively launched me back into a like fantasy romance phase. It was just all I wanted to read for a while. I am not a huge fan of Sarah J Maas. Typically, I think her characters are always 2-dimensional, and I think she always ruins her series on the second book. I get really sick of her love triangles. I think they're really flat, 2-dimensional, and just not how real people would act, and they really get on my nerves. And she always writes characters where every single person falls in love with the main character, and I don't know where this series is going. Maybe once again Sarah will completely destroy my love for this series in the second book, but for now I really loved it. So this is an urban fantasy where there are different mythical creatures and they're in different houses, which are essentially political factions, and they live in different parts of the city. Our main character Bryce is half fae, half human, and so this kind of marks her as like a second-class citizen in society, but she's friends with some very powerful people. Alas, her friends are then murdered by a demon, and so she teams up with this fallen angel to try and solve their murders. There is a romance element. I just loved it so much. It really felt like a cross between the Mortal Instruments and Ninth House, and I've never fangirled this hard. I was just like squealing and like genuinely sobbing reading it. And I made the mistake of reading this in front of my family at the end of the book, so I was just there like sobbing and everyone's there judging me. Truly my favourite book of the year, and I'm praying to all of the gods that Sarah J Maas doesn't ruin this for me, because I love this book and it means a lot to me right now. Then I read Truly Devious by Maureen Johnson. This is like a YA mystery novel about our main character, and she wants to be kind of like a Sherlock Holmes, Nancy Drew kind of gal. She's obsessed with true crime and she's gone to this super like fancy boarding school to study like true crime. There's a mystery at this super private boarding school that she is intent on solving, but there are modern day mysteries going on as well that she's solving. I did enjoy this, but not as much as BookTube kind of led me to believe that I would enjoy. I gave it a 3 stars. It was extremely fast paced. I did enjoy it and I will continue with the rest of this series. I was concerned that a mystery plot couldn't run over the course of multiple books, and when you get into this one you can then see how that's possible. My main issue with this book is that it just felt ridiculously YA. This is the first time I've ever read a YA novel and felt too old for it, and that did kind of hamper my enjoyment quite a bit. As much as I enjoyed that the plot was really fast paced, a lot of the like relationship developments were also way too fast paced. I didn't enjoy that, especially coming off Crescent City, which was such a slow burn. This just threw me for a bit of a loop. As much as I did enjoy it, I couldn't give it the like 4 or 5 stars that pretty much everyone else has given it. It just felt a bit too childish, which is not a bad thing. Then I read Paul Takes the Form of Immortal Girl. I picked this for the prompt of choose a book that you think you will love, and I did not love this. I think I gave it a 2 star. It's supposed to be this like modern historical book set in 1993 about our main character Paul, who is a shapeshifter, but he can only shift between like genders. I really thought that this would be like a really interesting take on gender, and it would really like open my mind and be really cool, but it wasn't. The historical setting doesn't come through at all. They may as well have just had it take place in the modern day. Other than on the back where it says it takes place in 1993, it doesn't mention it in the book. There's no hints to that. It doesn't come across at all. It's also much more a take on sexuality than gender, which is fine, just not what I was expecting at all. And my biggest issue with it is like, you can really tell that this is written by a man, so it's really vulgar. Like a lot of the time Paul will just look at someone and then like describe exactly what he wants to do to them, and it wasn't really like he was transforming his gender for any other reason other than he just wanted to hook up with a load of different people. And like that's fine, but I didn't need to read a whole book about this guy who just wants to sleep with as many people as possible and so transforms his gender in order to do that. And I didn't really need all the details of how he sleeps with them. Not to be a prude, but this was just a bit too much for me and I didn't enjoy it. But if you think it could be for you, I know a lot of people do like this book. I think I was reaching a little too far out my comfort zone with this one. And then things started to pick up a little bit. We had a bit of a saviour, and that was In the Wizard of Oz. I read this in a day. I was absolutely obsessed with it. I completely fell in love with this story. If you think that you know everything that happens in this book from the movie, you don't. The movie has really managed to keep that whimsical feeling of the book, but there are so many things that happen in the book that are completely different to the movie, and so I highly recommend that you read it. I absolutely adored the experience of reading this. It's got like the cutest little drawings, and I am so happy that I have this book. I'm gonna keep it forever. I really can see myself like rereading this just anytime I'm having a bad day, really. And then we have The Royal Assassin by Robin Hobb. If you have watched some of my previous videos, you guys will know that I really loved The Assassin's Apprentice by Robin Hobb, which is the first book in the Farseer trilogy. I was completely blown away by it. I found it so fast-paced, so enjoyable. I loved the courtly politics and how much of a role that played in the book. I was very ready for this book to also be good. I knew that it probably wouldn't be as good as the first because I knew that it needed to slow down, set up some big things for the third book. It's also a second book in a series, which I don't typically enjoy, but this was just so meh. To start with the positives, the court politics is still very, very much at play. They play an even bigger role in this. We follow Fitz when he's much older now, so he can actually be used even more so as a tool for the crown, and that really comes through, and that is again just really enjoyable. I love seeing politics in books. I think it is a mark of a really good fantasy book and a really good fantasy author if they can see how each decision is going to affect things so much later in the book. I love that. I also didn't really notice that the book had slowed down that much until like the 400-500 page mark. Towards the end, I just got bored. The ending was fine. The ending was like snappy and drew you in and made you want to like continue. I just wish that that exact ending had come like 100 pages earlier, basically. I also really did not like Molly as a character, and Molly is a huge part of this book. She didn't ever listen to anything anyone told her. She was whiny with Fitz all the time. She completely refused to understand the position that Fitz was in. I just think she was stupid. Like, why did she agree to what she agreed to do? Like, hun, it's like medieval times. Why are you doing that as a woman? I just found her so annoying. So yeah, I remember saying in my Dog Rates My TBR video that this book kind of ruined my excitement for the final book, and yeah, it has. Then I read Again by E. Lockhart. I read this for the prompt that is read a book with a low rating. This has like less than 3.5 star rating on Goodreads, and I haven't heard particularly good things about it, so I was like, this is perfect for that prompt. Guys, I really enjoyed it. So as you guys know, Midnight Library was my favourite book of last year, and this is kind of a similar concept. We follow our main character Adelaide, and she's dealing with a lot of like family drama and trauma, and we follow her through the summer as she's meeting like guys and falling in love and stuff like that. But for each conversation or like potential situation, you read the same situation but like going in different directions. So Adelaide might like text this guy. Straight after that, in the following pages, there will be different versions of that same text conversation played out with different endings, basically. So it's very much an alternative reality kind of style book, which apparently I now really enjoy. I can see why people don't like this. I believe I said in my Goodreads review that I am torn between giving this a 2-star and a 5-star for reasons that I can see why people don't like it. Trigger warnings for addiction and family like drama. It's also written in a very confusing way. It's not really made all that clear when we're jumping into different timelines. It also has a very, very ambiguous ending. I quite liked that the ending was ambiguous, but I can see why it would be so annoying. By the end of the book, you have absolutely no idea what timeline you're in. It's very confusing in that sense. Adelaide and pretty much all the characters in this book do also very much fall into that YA trap of they are young adults and teenagers who act like full-blown adults, and it is frustrating. I just found it really sweet and really hopeful, and it gave me such a good fuzzy feeling. If you guys know Right Where You Left Me by Taylor Swift, the song, this book is that song in book form. Also, if you are a big E. Lockhart fan, then you will enjoy this because, as is detailed in the author's note at the end, she has like a load of Easter eggs to her previous works in here. There's like locations from previous books, there's characters from previous books. And then I finally finished The People in the Trees by Hanya Yanagihara. I do not want to talk too much about this one. I gave it a 1-star. I would give it less than a 1-star if I could. I really need to start listening to other people's advice. I was told that this book was sad, especially in like the last few pages. And not even like sad, it's just horrific. This book follows our main character, and he is a doctor in like the 1950s, and he joins this team of anthropologists to find this lost population who live in the trees of this island, and they have exceptionally long lifespans, and he brings them back, is very abusive of them basically, that keeps them locked in cages, tests on them. I'm not entirely sure the book sets out to do what it intended to do. So it's supposed to be about the horrors of science, but so much of the last half of the book is about the Doctor's personal life and the mistakes that he makes in his personal life. We don't really get all that many details about what he's doing to these people in the labs, so yeah, I didn't enjoy this. I thought it was too graphic, and this book put me not even just in a reading slump, but like in a major depression slump. I felt so good after reading again to then read this. Literally, like I didn't want to do anything. And I study anthropology, so after reading this book I did not want to do any of my work. I just wanted to lie in bed all day. I genuinely felt horrific after reading this. And so the final book I read this year was Six of Crows by Leigh Bardugo. I finally got round to it. I read this for the prompts that was like, read a book that is being adapted into a movie or a TV show. Everyone knows that Netflix is adapting Shadow and Bone, and it will include stuff from Six of Crows. So I was like, yes, I will read this. Guys, you lied to me. I don't get the hype about this at all. Why are you lying that this is a good book? I was fully prepared to give this 2 stars right up until the 400-page mark, and then I was like, okay, no, actually it's like things are picking up and stuff is happening. I mean, admittedly, as I said after reading The People in the Trees, I was in a huge slump, like life slump and reading slump. So I can admit that maybe I didn't give this a fair shot, but I didn't enjoy it. I didn't really find that anything happened. I didn't connect with the characters at all. And my biggest like qualm with this book is there are just too many characters. And like, I understand that it's a heist book, so it's kind of supposed to be this like merry band of thieves and whatnot, but I don't need to hear the perspectives of like all of them. I kind of wish it had just stuck to 2 perspectives rather than like the 4 or 5 that we get. And so here are the 10 books that I read in the month of January. It could have been a lot more, but I was feeling slumpy for most of it, and then after I read The People in the Trees, it was like the worst slump I've ever experienced in my life. It was, all in all, not a great month. Not a great month personally, professionally, or reading, so I'm really ready for it to be February. If you guys have read any of these, do please let me know what you think of them. I know that pretty much everyone other than me has read Six of Crows, and that now that I've said I don't like it, the mob is probably coming for me. What can you do? I didn't enjoy it. Yeah, I would love to know what you think of these books, what you thought of this video. Much more chilled vibes today. I really don't have the energy for anything crazy. I hope you enjoyed either way. If you did and you want to stick around and see some of my other videos, do please hit that big red subscribe button. It would be much appreciated. I upload twice a week on a Wednesday and a Friday, so there is no shortage of bookish content here. Thank you very much for watching. I do hope you enjoyed, and I will see you on Friday for my next video. Bye guys.